Welcome everyone, this is your host Abraham L. Jaguar, a professional game master. First of all, this channel is proudly partnered with the What the Funk shop. Please check out their store for all sorts of products. They have dice, miniatures, game master screens, home decorations, and many other things. You will find the link in the description and in the pinned comment. And make sure that you use my code for a special discount. Today, I want to talk about something very important, a responsibility of the players in tabletop role playing games. In many tabletop RPGs, you have various spells, abilities, powers, feats, perks, etc. In the case of rules light games, this is not too much of a problem. The information is quite simple, quite simplified, but in a bit more intermediate to heavy crunch sort of RPGs, you have so many details concerning the range, various damage sources, nuances related to certain enemies being weaker against a particular spell or psionic power. That particular spell, ability power, and whatnot could also be less effective against certain types of creatures. Maybe, for example, an ice spell is not very effective against a nice based enemy, of course, or perhaps even there is resistance when used against a fire composed opponent. Sometimes it's the other way around. Sometimes the creatures that are made out of some sort of elemental fire material, they are quite weak against ice or water based spells, right? So many details, so many nuances. And it is important to understand that the players and the game master, they are not walking encyclopedias of the tabletop RPG that you are using. So when you are about to use a spell, an ability, etc., perk, even an artifact, right? A special artifact, some sort of magical object, you cannot expect the players or the game master to know how those things work. That is your responsibility. You either learn about the details of the spell, ability, magical item, artifact, and whatnot, or you have them on a little cheat sheet, or you have your handbook or rulebook or whatever open on those pages or with the bookmarks to those pages so that you can easily reference that during the session. And when you cast it, make sure that you inform the recipient of the effects. If you are using this against a foe, make sure that you inform the game master through roleplay if there are some other effects related to that spell. For example, I move my hands around, tracing figures of eight in the air, and chant the eldritch words as I unleash a blast of mutagen blast. The target must now make a saving throw against mutagen spell, depending on the system, right? Mutagen spell, or suffer this much of damage if he fails, and a part of the body is transformed, right? You can also inform the failure. If the save is successful, the spell only deals this much of damage. And that's all that you need to know. Summarize the effects, and that is it. If you're using a spell that only works within a particular range, and you're using perhaps even the mind side to play the session, you don't have a grid. You can also roleplay to understand if the enemy or the target is within range. I look at the enemy in front of me to see if he is within 30 feet of range, within 30 feet of range. And the game master can describe that the enemy is beyond that range. He is located at 40 feet away from you. Or the enemy is within range, just 20 feet away from you. You see, so easy. But like I said, it is up to the player to inform such details to the others. If you are using a spell, make sure that you know that spell can be utilized or used with a party member. If it's a healing or protective spell, what if it only works on yourself? But you need to figure out, to verify that you can cast it on some other individual and inform that individual you have now healed 10 hit points of damage, right? If not, how is he or she going to know? Now, for some, this might sound a bit silly, but I have seen and I've had some cases of people using powers and abilities and they have no idea what they are using, but they're still trying to use them. And this gives the game master an opportunity to punish that as you attempt to cast the spiky Iron Sun of Death on your friend. You realize that the spell fizzles immediately as you remember that it cannot be cast upon a friend, only on yourself, right? Sometimes the game master may feel generous and may inform you of this beforehand, but it is not advisable to do it too often because the player will fall into a bad attitude of constantly having the game master as a sort of reference for all of the spells and abilities and powers. That's why you have your books. And if you don't own the book before the session, make sure that you have your hands on that information. Talk to your game master before the session. I don't have the spell that I want to use. Could you please, do you have the book? Do you have the source material? Can you give me the details? There you go. Here's the information on the range, the damage, what enemies the spell is particularly effective against, which enemies have a specific resistance against that spell, and whatnot. All of that can be passed before the session so that you don't stop the session and you're like, oh, I don't know, is that possible? Can you use that on other player characters? Can you only use it on yourself? What is the range for that? How much damage do you deal? Terrible. So prepare everything beforehand. Prepare it. And once you cast that spell, make sure that everyone at the table knows the effects, the damage, the range that the spell has for you to actually be able to target someone or something. The effects of the spell, the nuances, the weaknesses, the strengths. You can communicate this quite easily. It doesn't take long. Like I said, I cast Mysterious Projectile on the enemy to my left. There is no saving throw, then just immediately continue. It deals 6 points of damage, and the enemy has been blinded unless the enemy is a construct, right? Because what if the enemy looks human, but is actually a robot? So now the game master can describe the enemy to the side is damaged, but he is not cut by the blindness effect. The blindness effect has no effect upon his eyes, right? And now the player could be thinking, that's suspicious. Humans should be affected by that blinding effect. So now the player could suspect that is not a human, that is a robot. You see? So yes, I hope this video was informative and entertaining. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you so much to those of you that are going the extra mile to support the channel. If anyone else wishes to further support the channel, consider joining as a member using the Super Thanks button. Take a look at the information in the description and in the pinned comment. This has been your host, Abraham L. Jaguar, a professional game master. And remember, in tabletop RPGs, you are not having a conversation about your characters. You are experiencing the game world as your characters. Once again, thank you and see you later.